Okay, I think we can start now. So welcome everyone to the second IAHR Coffee Chat. So today's topic is on how to establish a healthy work-life balance. And I'm very happy to welcome Professor Silke Wieprecht from University of Stuttgart and Professor Ruiz-Villanueva from the University of Lausanne as our guest speakers today. My name is Isabella, and I'm a researcher at ETH Zurich at the Laboratory of Hydraulics. Together with the IAHR Task Force on Strengthening Gender Diversity within IAHR, I started this coffee chat. I actually reached out to Silke Wieprecht, who is the chair of this task force, to start organizing this coffee chat. And the goal of these coffee chats are to actually provide a rather informal event to give young women engineers the opportunity to exchange with established women researchers, especially since the IAHR community, or in general, the engineering community, is rather male dominated. So the target audience are young women. However, we want to provide an inclusive event, so anyone that is interested in this event today is very welcome. Today is also kind of a special day because it's also the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. So I'm going to share my screen to show you the presentation. So this is the agenda for today. After my welcoming remarks, we're going to hear a brief introduction by both Silke Wieprecht and Ruiz-Villanueva, and then this will be followed by a moderated discussion. So you all sent me lots of questions. In total, I received more than 100 questions. I tried to summarize them and categorize them in different sections, and then I will read the most common ones to both Silke and Virginia. And then at the end, there will be the opportunity for you to ask questions using the Q&A box. And then I will forward them. In case the question that has been answered, you have a follow-up question, you can also raise your hands and I can unmute you in case you would want to do that. And in case of technical problems, you can use the chat box. But for your questions, please use the Q&A box. And then we will have some closing remarks. So to start the coffee chat, it would be great if you, Silke, could start with your introduction.
Yeah, thank you very much, Isabella, for, on the one hand, the invitation, being part in this coffee chat, and hello to everybody. And it's nice to have such a large list of people joining that coffee chat. And it's great that you, Isabella, started the whole initiative. And yeah, I'm very happy about that. Yeah, I just would like to give a brief overview of my scientific background so that you know what I'm coming from and what's my research field. And my main topic is sediments and river morphology. And this is true since my diploma, when I started my diploma thesis and then my PhD, and all my scientific world or life was in sediments and river morphology. So and now I'm here in Stuttgart, at Stuttgart University, and having the professorship for hydraulic researchers in water resources management. And yeah, my group is mainly also working in river morphology and sediments. And this comes from small processes of single particles and goes to the overall dynamics and interaction in the larger sketch or larger scale in rivers or river sections and whole catchments. And we are working in the field, we are working in the lab, and we are working with numerical models. Yeah, if you would like to go to the next slide, Isabella. Yeah, so to give you a brief personal background, when we are talking about life and work balance, I started my diploma degree or my studies in 1984, and 2 years later, to be honest, it was less than 2 years later, my son was born. So I had, during the whole study time, I had a son growing up, and I was single mother very soon. And when I finished all my studies by 1991 with my diploma, I had a son, I was married, and I was divorced. So I had the whole story already finished. And what you see here in the pictures is my son during the PhD time. I was working in a flume with sediments for sure. And yeah, when you have long working hours, or when I looked after my experiments during the weekends, I took my son and just he enjoyed playing there around and enjoyed water and sand. This is what every kid likes. I did my PhD in 1998, and you see already from the time that it took a bit longer to get my diploma, and it took a bit longer to make the PhD due to the fact that I had my little son. And then in 2002, I had a stay at Beijing University for a visiting researcher. I had my son with me. He was there in school and just joined me during that time, which was a great experience for him as well. In 2003, I get the full professorship, and I had 2 more leaves in the outside of Germany, so at Norway for sabbatical, and in South Africa and in Malaysia. Why did I put it here? Just to show you that having the position is not only working in your office and to organize your time around that. It's about traveling, it's about having stays abroad and so on. And in the meantime, I was promoted being grandmother since 2017. But the grandson came in 2018. Since that, I have a granddaughter as well. And for the final slide that I prepared is just a bit more about this commitment. So if you want to be successful in your profession, especially in research and science, it's all about networking. And networking means that you are active in different associations or groups. And it's not to show you, the list is not to show you that I'm so special. It's maybe not really much compared to maybe others, but to show you that it's not only your research and the teaching, it's a lot of more duties and a lot of more things that we do. So like in the German Water Association, within IAHR, and so on. So this is just what I wanted to show with this little slide, that there is more about it. Maybe so far, so good. So maybe it's enough for the moment. And if you have more questions, we can talk about that later. And I just hand over to Virginia.
Yeah, thank you, Silke. So good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank Isabella for organizing this coffee chat and inviting me to participate. You may hear my daughter in the background, sorry. So it's a really great initiative, and it's a really nice way to celebrate the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. I originally come from Spain, where I did my bachelor in earth science. So I'm not an engineer. My background is on fluvial geomorphology. So I did my master's and my PhD in fluvial geomorphology in Spain. And then I moved to Switzerland 8 years ago already. And I did my first postdoc here, and then I worked as a scientific collaborator at University of Geneva and also ETH Zurich. And just recently, last year, I joined the Faculty of Geoscience and Environment at the University of Lausanne as an assistant professor. And I created my own research group. So the beginning was just in the middle of the pandemic, and now we just meet online, so it's a bit challenging. And so what we do is, I said I'm not engineer, but I approach the study of rivers applying an interdisciplinary framework. So if you go to the next slide, Isabella. Yeah, so the focus of my research is on river ecosystems, and I pay special attention to interactions between physical processes or fluvial processes and vegetation, which is the main source of organic matter to rivers and large wood. So because rivers, if you go to the next one, and we have a video, I can show you that rivers do not only convey water and sediment. So in forested catchments, there is also wood. So my research aims to analyze these dynamics of wood and integrate the flow regime with the sediment regime and the wood regime, which is the third pillar of river ecosystems. So to do that, if you go next, I developed new methods for monitoring and modeling river ecosystems, and the goal is to sustain or to develop methods to sustain healthy rivers while also addressing potential hazards and risks. And so I had my daughter 1 year ago, or she's now 15 months, and yeah, during this time I combined, or I tried to balance being a young mother with the pandemic and the work, and so far has been good. So I hope I can just share my experience with you today, and of course I'm glad to answer the questions and discuss later. Oh, well,
Sorry.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for this introduction. I think we can just start with the discussion. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. So the first question that I wrote down is focusing more on your time management. So do you have any tricks you apply in order to keep yourself from working too much, or how do you manage your expectations to be more realistically? And for instance, do you have like a schedule for out of office work hours, or how do you handle that? Virginia, maybe do you want to go first?
Yep. So, well, I think first of all, setting priorities help managing expectations, not only for others, but for myself, for example. So I organize usually the work in smaller tasks, and I sort these tasks. So I always have a to-do list, and this helps me a lot to see what is what I need to do during the day, and then to set up the priorities and focus on one task at a time. That's also, I think, important for me. And I think try to keep the balance. Trying not to work a lot during weekends, but sometimes only during rare exceptions I've done that. But yeah, I think so. In academia, as in many other sectors, working too much might be considered the norm. But I think this is maybe the danger here, or the risk, is that we are usually doing something that we really like and we really enjoy, and then it's really difficult to stop or to find the right time to say, okay, I finished here. So it's true that we need to find this sort of balance.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's really hard to stop. Silke, do you agree, or do you have other tricks or any additions?
Yeah, I think the tricks, very often the tricks are very personal tricks, yeah, and it depends a lot on the character, what works and what does not work, yeah. But if I read the question, or if I get the question about the expectations, I think one question should be first, is it a real expectation of somebody else towards you? Or is it that you feel that somebody expects something? Yeah? And then it's more your own problem, or your own how you feel, how it is, and maybe the other person didn't really mean it, that you now do that, and that you answer exactly now, and that you fulfill this expectation within a short period to manage all these big tasks in once. Yeah, I think this is something that we should ask ourselves: is it an expectation, a self-expectation, or is it really an expectation which comes from outside, from another person? And yeah, I also have a lot of to-do lists. I not only have one, I have several ones. I have a digital one, I have a paper version, and yes, and I have ones, some which have different colors. So to know this is teaching and this is project and so on. Yeah, and what I started to do, and this is quite nice to not only have the to-do list where you see, okay, this is my whole list to do, but also put that in my calendar and reserve some times in my schedule. And then I realize, okay, for that I need a day. And usually you make a guess how much you need. And in the end, you need, that's my experience, 1.5 as long as your first guess. And if you already reserve all the times in your schedule, you see, oh, this will be not enough time. Yeah. So I need the night additionally. And then you realize, okay, I have to take something off my to-do list. Yeah? And the next question I ask myself, so what is urgent? And what is important? And only the things which are important and urgent, they are priority one, yeah? Because only being urgent, if it's not important, it doesn't make sense, and the other way around as well. You know? Sometimes it's difficult to differentiate what is really urgent and important, but I think this helps sometimes to just sit back, take a minute, and go through the to-do list and sort out what is really needed to be done first.
Okay, well, but when you say that you only tackle the problems that are urgent or important, you do have to say no to something. So how do you then tell the people no in a maybe polite or professional way, or do you have any advice for that?
You know, that's the biggest problem for all of us, because saying no means that you have to say no to something what you really like to do. So we are in a very privileged situation that we are doing things which really are fun. And then I see a topic and think, oh, this would be cool. And then it's not saying no to somebody else, it's more saying no to myself. And maybe that's even more difficult. Yeah, I can't really give a recipe how to say no. Yeah, yeah. It's sometimes my team tells me, no, we won't do that. We are really full. No, we will not do this one. Yeah, and maybe this helps, that somebody else tells you that you have to say no.
Okay, so
Virginia has a better recipe how to do that.
Well, no, I think I'm still learning to say no. And the problem I just realized when my to-do list is always full of things, and I change the to-do list from 1 month to the other usually. So I have monthly to-do lists, and there are always some tasks that are there. And this shows me that there is something that is not working as it should. So this means that I had a lot or too much to do. And this is because many times of course, if I get a proposal for a collaboration and I really like it, it's really hard to say no. And it might be even harder at the beginning of the career, that you feel you cannot say no to anyone, because then you are closing doors, and so you have this extra pressure. But it's true that at some point you have to really learn that. And one thing I try to do now that I didn't do before is just not accepting all the papers or manuscripts to review, that I used to review a lot of manuscripts, for example. And also balance a bit how is my contribution to some, let's say, pro bono collaborations. But yeah, it's really difficult, because if it is something that is of interest for you, it's hard.
yes. So maybe a follow-up question, because it kind of seems like it is difficult to not work like at night or in the evening or on weekends, but what would you recommend to do in order to not carry problems associated to your work into your private life? Do you have any recommendations on that? Virginia, maybe you want to start.
So I'm not sure if it is actually too bad to not bring your problems home or your conflicts, but I really like talking about my day at home, and especially if I've done something that I liked, or a nice collaboration, or some nice results I got, and also if I have a problem, so I discuss it with my family and with my friends, especially my friends outside academia, and this usually helps me a lot to give the balance that they actually have. So sometimes I realize that maybe some problems that I see, oh, this is the end of the world. Then I tell a friend outside of this scientific world, and they say, what? But this is not really important. And or maybe they tell me about other issues they had during the day, and then I realize, okay, maybe this really can wait until tomorrow, or this was not so important as I thought it was. So I think is of course, if you don't, so if these problems are not interfering with your private life, I find it very useful for me to talk about them at home. But this is very personal, of course.
And Silke, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, maybe I'm very bad in this because I take everything with me. Yeah, so and it's maybe like Virginia said, it's also good to talk about it, because then some problems just solve by itself by talking about it, and then you think, oh, okay, that's it, that's the solution. Yeah, and it's also good to get a feedback that some things are really not important. Yeah, because we feel like, oh, this is really important, and this is maybe the only advice that I can give, or this is one thing that I do. Sometimes if I feel totally overwhelmed of all this work and too many things, and I think I will never be able to solve that, I just sit down and think, okay, what would happen if I do just nothing now? Would anybody die? Would anybody go to prison? Does it cost a lot of money? And if I just get a no, I think, okay, then just do one after the other, and it just happens as it happened. And maybe sometimes we have just to step back a step and see, okay, what is really important. Yeah. To be honest, sometimes I just can't sleep because I have too many things in my mind, and I'm waking up during the night, and I always have a piece of paper and a pen next to my bed, because otherwise I think, oh, you should not forget, and then I can't sleep anymore. Yeah. But that's the worst time. If I have really stressful times, then then I know, okay, now I have to take a break.
Okay, and talking about breaks, what is that you like to do in your leisure time? Do you also have it that sports help you to, I don't know, think about nothing or just breathing? Silke, do you wanna?
Yeah, that's exactly what I really enjoy, just thinking nothing, because yeah, I can't think nothing. I only have one thing where I really can't think, is when I'm running. And that's really my balance. Yeah, so I'm running through the woods. I have no ears, in ears or so, no music, nothing. And every time when I'm starting, I think, now you think about this or that problem. And in the end, I'm coming back and I realized I only thought about a bird, about the trees, about the air, about whatever. And it was really empty in my head. And that's the best relaxing thing that I could do. Yeah. And I really need that.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think, yeah, running was also, is still, but now I don't practice so often. But running was really important also for me. So especially in the evening, after work, it was kind of this is the end of the day, and yeah, it helped me quite a lot. I did quite often, so I ran several half marathons and a full one a few years ago, and now I don't do it so often, but I hope I will be able to do it again very soon. So yeah, I think sports always help. Absolutely. And for me, what I enjoy the most is just being outdoor. So any activity in the nature.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. maybe before we go to the next topic, just one remark. At the beginning, I asked the participants to enter your name, and unfortunately, this is not possible due to a technical problem. I'm very sorry that you tried to type in your name. I was not aware of that. So for this coffee chat, you just all have the same name, but in case you can still raise your hand and I can see that, no problem. So the next topic, since in your introduction, you both mentioned that you have children. So a lot of questions that came were also related, of course, how can you have a work-life balance when you also have a family? So do you have any advice on how to balance your work, including kids? And also, Virginia, I know that, or you also mentioned that your daughter is fairly young, and maybe also parallel, you were appointed as an assistant professor. How did you manage that?
So yeah, I think timing was not, I mean, it was planned, but then it came when it came, and it was just, so when I was pregnant, it was in between jobs. So I finished my project, and I finished my job as a scientific collaborator at the University of Geneva. I spent 2 months in Lyon as a visiting researcher, and then I started at ETH to work also as a scientific collaborator. And I was at the same time a lecturer at Freiburg University in Germany. And I did a lot of field work and a field trip with the master students there. And I managed to do all this because my pregnancy was very easy. I think I would not have done this if any complication would have come. But yeah, I think I tried to rest as much as possible and then take it easy. And of course, I felt more tired than usual, but then yeah, everything was fine. So then it was just the time when when my daughter was born that I could take the maternity leave, and right after I started as an assistant professor. So actually timing was working quite well. But as I said, it was not something that I planned like this. It just happened like this. So, and I don't know exactly how I manage. I guess how as everybody does. So enjoying my time with my family now and with my daughter, and then enjoying also my work, as I was doing before being a mother.
And Silke, can you share some of your experiences?
Yeah, so during the study time, I didn't really have money to invest any money in having some help, but this would be my main advice, that because this is what I heard very often. Now you're a mother, you have to take care of your kid. Yeah, and I thought, okay, if I take care of my kid, I can't earn any money. So earning no money, and if you are in a partnership, that's fine. Then you are two, and you can share money, time, duties, whatever. Yeah, it depends on how is your agreement with your partner. But if you go back to the very conservative model, the man is earning the money and the woman is taking care of the kid, then there is no income from the mother side. Yeah? Means for me that I could also invest my whole income in taking care of kids. Yeah, this is the alternative, that I enjoy my job and take my money and invest this in my kids. And this is the best investment that you can have. Yeah? So it reduces anyway, the more the kids grow up, the less childcare investment you have to take. And it's also good to have somebody to take care of your household, to take care of your kids, whatever, just to bring yourself or give yourself more free time. Yeah? So because this is the most valuable time that you have. Why should you spend your valuable time with cleaning instead of playing with your kid? So it's, yeah, and this is a very good investment to take, to use that money for ease your whole situation, your daily situation. And that's what I experienced is the best I could do. Try to incorporate my kid in my activities. This is what I said. So during my China trip, I just took him, and he was going there to the German school. And we had a very great time together instead of leaving him at home for 6 months, and just being with the grandparents or so. And that's the same for your daily life. So instead of cleaning and say play with yourself, you have somebody investing the money, doing that, and you share the time with your kids.
Okay, following up on that, there has been a bit of a direct question. So have you ever been told that you may regret to pursue a career because you will miss out on your children's life, or the opposite, that you should not have children because you're a professor? Silke?
Yeah, so during my study, when I was pregnant with this big belly, I remember I came up the stairs, and then one of my fellow student mates told me, "What are you doing here? You should be at home and take care of your kid." It was not yet born, but he was like, "I'll kick you out." Yeah, but my experience was more that the same aged mates, they were more critical than the elder people or the younger anyway, not. But yes, and my best friend, she told me, "You should take care of your kid, and why are you going behind your career, and this is not good," and all these classical things. And now it's the other way around, because she stopped working on her career. She stopped work. She didn't work at all. She got her education. She graduated from the university and never started working. And now she got divorced and has no job, no income, but 3 kids. Yeah. And now she said, "Oh, maybe this was the wrong decision." In the end, I think it's a personal decision that everybody should take on her or himself. But I don't think that it's not good for the kids. If you try to reserve quality time, for your kids, they don't need 24 hours of you. Yeah, so it's good if you have an hour per day or 2 hours per day, and the most important time is the last hour before they go to bed, for example. Yeah, and you have a nice weekend. I think that's good for them. That's good enough.
Thank you. Virginia, do you have something to add?
Yeah, maybe not exactly that. So no one told me you should not have children but it's true that when I was pregnant and I told some male colleagues that I was pregnant, they told me, so then this means you will be less productive for the next few years. And this is first of all something I'm not sure if it is true. We will see. But even if it is true, it's something that they never would say to a male colleague that is announcing is going to become a father. So I guess the reaction is, "Congratulations." And then things are as they are. And then for a woman is just the reaction, then you will change your priorities, and you will change the way you see your work. And to be honest, this doesn't apply to me. So I still enjoy what I do in the same way as I did it before. And it's true, I have less time than before. That's a reality. But I think it requires a little bit more organization. And I have my husband, and we organize ourselves in a way that we both can enjoy the free time with our daughter, and then we both are also working. I think we are really in a very good position, because we decided both to reduce from 100% to 80% the workload. This means that we reduced our salaries as well. But this also means that now we work 4 days a week. And so our daughter is going to the childcare 3 days a week, at least we initially planned to do that for the first 2 years, and then we'll see how it works. So yeah, this is let's say, small sacrifice that we do, but we enjoy really a lot our time with our daughter. And I still, the other days I work full time and I'm really focused on what I do, and the same applies to my husband. So.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's very impressive. So since both of you are professors, you're now also on the other side that you are employers. And then, so my question, or a very interesting question that has been asked, is how do you as an employer react to the needs of researchers that have families? So for instance, if they have to do field work, but they have children, or if they want to attend a conference for their working time, how do you handle that, in case you've already experienced that?
I think I don't have enough experience to say anything about that. I'm really at the very beginning of managing a small group, and I didn't experience this already, but Silke for sure will have some experience.
Yeah, but maybe I'm a bit a tough employer in this perspective, because I would expect that somebody tries to organize her or his family time as well as the professional time. It's like you said, Virginia, so when you are working, you are concentrated on working, and for that time, you have organized everything to be really concentrated on your work. For sure, if the kid is sick or if there's something special, then we have a specific situation. But for me as an employer, it's difficult if in the 1 week, the person comes and says, oh, I'm late because I don't know what, the kid didn't want to get up. And I have to go earlier because I have to go to do this and that. And you have every second day something different. This is what I really, I'm not very patient, yeah, and not very, how to say, not so easygoing. If somebody has everything more or less organized and there's an exception and some specific situation, we always find a solution. Yeah? And field trip, if you have a little kid and you are a single parent, it's more or less important to go for a week for a field trip. Yeah? Then we have to find a different solution. Then maybe another person has to do that or whatever. But and if he or she wants to go to the conference, yeah, then either he or she goes to the conference with the kid and organizes it there, go with a partner or have somebody else with him or her, or the kid is at home, and it's just a question of organization. And if I can support you in organizing something, that's fine. But what I don't really like is if somebody is not reliable. And I think this is also not good. If you are not reliable, everybody will tell you afterwards, yeah, I knew this is the mothers with the kids, they are not reliable. Yeah, so there's always something new happening, and then you are not qualified in their eyes to make a career. So I think that's the worst thing that you can do. The best thing is that you organize everything, and for every exception, I think everybody has an understanding, but not for this back and forth, and so on.
Mm-hmm. And talking about understanding, there has been one question that relates more to a lot of people maybe tend to do understand when you're more stressed because you have children, but a lot of people, they do not have children or choose to not, and they are still stressed. And a person wrote that how can the person get the colleagues to stop with comments like, oh, when you have kids, you'll understand, or oh, you don't have kids, so there's no reason for you to be stressed. How can you as a maybe kidless person still make your point that there are other life topics that can still maybe stress you or your work, and not only family? Do you have any advice how to respond to that? Silke, do you want to?
Yeah, from my point of view, you just can say how it is. Yeah, you can say, yes, that's true. I have no kids, but I have other duties, and you have your personal situation. You have chosen to spend your time with kids and partner and whatever. And I have to have a different personal situation, and I have chosen to do more on this and have an additional activity in the IHR or in something else. And this is also stressful. It's just different. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just different. Yeah? And I think the easiest is to just address the reality and just speak out how it is. And yeah, it's true. If I have no kids, I don't know how it is. If I have kids, maybe I don't remember anymore how it was without any kids, without any duties.
I do remember. And I was told this many times, because in my closest group of friends, I was one of the last one having kids. And so yeah, I was told many times, no, but you will understand when you have kids. And I really think no, having kids, that's not necessarily mean an easier life or less stressful life. So also there are many reasons why people is not having kids. So you never know what is behind this decision. And that's why I never, or at least I try not to say that to people I don't know well. So it's, yeah. So when they told me that, I simply didn't give it a lot of thought. I didn't really give the importance.
Okay.
It has.
Thank you. There have been, in addition to the topic on work-life balance, there have also been a lot of questions regarding gender equality. And one question has been that at a lot of universities, there's the quota on how many women have to be in certain committees. And because, especially in engineering disciplines or STEM disciplines, there are not a lot of women. So when you are a female faculty, you end up in a lot of committees. So has this been an issue for you, and have you discussed this, or how do you handle that? Virginia, do you want to?
Yeah, I think this has been discussed at my institute. We recently had also a discussion about gender equality, and yeah, this is of course an issue, but I think the solution is still to be found, and I think this will come with time, and with parity and equity, and with more women in science. But I don't have a solution right now. But it's true that it's an additional pressure for the women that are already there.
Yeah, that's true. And it's a bit of unfair, because we are spending a lot of time with all these topics and issues. And as you mentioned, Isabella, so we are not that many, that we can distribute that evenly. Means it's not only one position or post that we have in one committee, it's 2 or 3 or 5. And whenever the question about gender arises, then everybody looks around and this is, and then it's always going to the women. Yeah. So, and then you have one post after the other and one job after the other to work on that. And means you spend time on this, and your men colleagues, they are working on their science. Yeah. And I think that's really unfair. That's the part which I find is unfair. And in the end, it's like you said, Virginia, I don't know, I don't have a solution, and but we have to work on that. And I see that we also need this this visibility, means a kind of quota. Otherwise, nothing will happen. Means maybe we are just the generation to take over that additional workload for the future generation. And I just can encourage all the young girls and women to be more, to also be active in the engineering, in the STEM fields, and be more present there. And it's nothing that we have in the brain. Only males have the STEM area here. So this has nothing to do with male or female.
No, certainly not. Then, and there have been quite a lot of questions regarding to how you have been perceived as a female engineer. So if you've ever been underestimated or felt astonishment about your position or under-evaluated of your studies by other colleagues, how did you react, and what advice can you give to women if they come to this situation? Silke, do you want to start?
Yeah, it changes. The younger you are, the more you are maybe approached as the secretary of the chair. This sometimes still happens if somebody doesn't know whether he or she can expect a man or a woman behind Professor Wieprecht. Yeah. So then you answer the phone, and then she says, it's nice, I have the secretary. Would you please send me over to the professor? But it reduces, yeah, from time to time during the time. Yeah, but I have a little story about that, which was not my personal story, but this was told by a colleague of mine, and I really like that. She was on a conference, and then somebody approached her and said, are you a colleague or are you a spouse? And then she said, if you are not a spouse, I'm a colleague. And I really like that. Yeah. So, but this is like a lot of men think, okay, she must be the wife of somebody. She's not the one who is a real scientist behind it. Yeah. So, yeah. But it happens, but I think it reduces.
Okay. And Virginia?
Yeah, I also experienced some, let's say, discrimination or different behavior than with male colleagues. Yeah, not super often, but sometimes. And sometimes I did not realize at the time it happened, and I maybe realized afterwards. Sometimes I did realize and I didn't do anything about that. And now I regret. I mean, I think this is something we should try to react more actively, not only us, not only women, everyone. If everyone is witnessing discrimination, should react to that. But it's true that many times, if I see this or someone is just talking to me like if I was, I don't know, a PhD, or I feel like, nice, I still look young. Or I just tell myself, but the problem is their problem, it's not mine. I mean, and what I do is just I work even harder. Okay, I managed to show them they are so wrong. So
yes, and I mean, you have been very successful in that. So.
And sometimes it's also this kind of discrimination, which is just, they don't really mean that in this way, but it's there, they just want to, and we have one woman amongst us, and she is wearing such a nice dress, and I think, what is he talking about? Yeah, and he means it really nice, and there it's really difficult to answer. Should I say, don't say anything about my dress? And this is really impolite, but on the other hand, it's not okay to mention that. Yeah, and it's even not okay to mention that I'm the only woman. So yeah, it's like it is.
Yes.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's a very difficult topic. The other difficult topic that has been now ongoing for almost a year is, of course, COVID. It significantly changed how we work, and there have been also quite a lot of questions related to that topic. So how did your balance change due to the new working conditions? So mainly working from home, and how are you now able to separate working from home and your life? And also another question, how do you keep yourself motivated during the pandemic? Silke, do you want to start?
To be honest, I don't really have a big difference. Yes, it's a big difference, but not in terms of working place. I'm still more or less every day in the office. I am the lucky guy who has a single office, means I just can sit here safely, and that's okay with me. If I'm working at home, I have a separate working space, and if I work, I work. So I don't really need something to motivate myself, because I'm doing anyway things that I like. Yeah, but due to COVID, I have a much more business, much more on my to-do list, because all these online events and the online teaching and so on, this really increases the workload. But what I see is that we have a lot of people, and this is especially true if you have family who do not have a working space at home, or have one and can't really concentrate because the kids are in the background and there's no childcare at the moment. So even if you have in principle organized everything, these days nothing is organized. Yeah, that's difficult. Yeah, so we try to organize that here, to open more rooms and give everybody a place where we can, but it's really difficult for those. And for me, I can't really give a good feedback, because I'm in a very privileged and different situation. I'm sure that Virginia has a different situation, and you know better than I know.
Well, not better, different, I guess. No, but it's true that something didn't change. And before the pandemic, I was already doing home office quite often. So in a way, this has improved because now everyone or many people are also doing home office, so we are in a similar situation. But it's true that working from home is sometimes difficult to keep it separate from your private life. So before, when I was doing home office, was because I was working at the University of Geneva, and this is 2 hours away from my place. So I had the possibility to work from home 3 days a week. And at that time, I really had difficulties to, for example, to finish the work at a time. Just sometimes I was finishing right before dinner or some things like this. And now, when I do home office, this has changed, and I organize myself much better. So, yeah, I think what is important is to keep a schedule, even if you are at home. And so just plan your tasks and your work for the day. And when the time comes, you have to stop and then change the activity. And well, in my case, is because we go to take care of my daughter. And so this also helps. But what I find also positive is the flexibility that home office brings. And this is something I think that we should keep in the future. And now, during this year, home office has helped me organizing my time with my daughter as well. And it's true that it might be difficult to keep the motivation sometimes. And for me, what is really important is to keep the contact with colleagues. And besides all these online meetings that we all have, just keep also more informal meetings with colleagues and discuss about normal things, all the things that you would have discussed before over a coffee or some things like that, or during lunch. And do also this online. But I think this is important to keep the motivation.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is great advice, especially to schedule and to then stop working. I think now we have time to answer some questions that have been typed into the Q&A. So to the attendees, in case you have additional questions, please type them in now in the Q&A. There has been one about whether or not the situation worsened with all the email correspondence arriving in the inbox. What are your recipes for prioritizing? And how do you manage email correspondence and at the same time performing tasks in the office which need time?
Yeah, good question.
Silke, you want to go first?
Yeah, but I don't really have an overall solution for that. So what I try, I get a lot of emails asking for a PhD position, asking for recommendation letters, asking for I don't know what. If I don't know to be honest, I just check, is this topic really fitting 100% in my field? And if I don't know the person, or whether I know the person from personally, so, but otherwise, in the beginning, I started writing any answers, and I really got, I didn't find an end. Yeah, I just delete them. I'm sorry for that to say that, but I just delete them. Yeah, I pick out only those which are really fitting 100% to me. And this is already a lot of things that this cleans my inbox. Yeah, and then I also check, is this an email which is going directly to me, or am I just carbon copied? So if I'm just in CC, I think this is just for my information. If you want me, then you have to write to me directly. This is also kind of selection. And then I try to reserve just an hour in the morning and an hour after lunch for the emails. And in between, I close my mailbox. I don't even want to see popping up there's a new email, because I'm too yeah, I just want to know what it is, and then you start writing anyway. And if it's really closed, the Outlook, then I just don't see it. But I don't really have an overall solution for that, and that's a big thing. Yeah, so my mean value for emails is that I get 100 email messages per day, and you need to sort that out, otherwise you have no chance.
Okay.
So in comparison, I think I receive much less number of emails. So, but it's true that so usually I reserve some time for answering emails unless they are kind of urgent. So it's something that should be answered immediately. Or if I'm not doing something that is so, it needs me to be really focused. So then I can maybe combine. Oh, I see I receive an email, I reply. Otherwise, I just keep the emails and then I answer them later. I have the email in my mobile phone. This means that I see the emails all the time, even during the weekends, but I really try not to answer. So I would say most of the time, I don't work during weekends. I take this time for me, and I did this before. It's not only now that I have a daughter. So I only reply emails if they are really, really important or really, really urgent. If there is like a deadline on Monday and this cannot really wait until Monday. But these are exceptions. So I think this is the important thing. Of course, we all have some periods when we are more stressed and when we have a higher workload, and this is normal. This happens everywhere in every job.
Yeah.
And we need to deal with this stress, but this should not be the norm. This should not be the normal way. So if this is the norm, then we should find maybe the problem and then the solution. So yeah, I think this is my way, but maybe that when I receive 100 emails, I would also apply the same strategy. So, because of course you have to prioritize. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, thank you. And then now we have one last question that was typed in, focusing not on the work, but on the other, the life. So what activity do you do in your me time? So something that's just for yourself outside of academia and your children.
So for me, it was running before, so sports usually, because I did this by myself. And since I forgot to say this before, but since I got pregnant, I now do yoga, and this is really a me time. And yeah, now I do it also online, so I still keep doing that. And yeah.
And Silke, for you?
Yeah, so I don't really have that much me time. So I have a partner which is not at the same place. So we are commuting every weekend. So every second weekend I'm sitting in the train, and which is still my office. Yeah, so I have this train office as well. And I'm happy if we have time during the weekend. And this is what I also stopped working during the weekend, because we only have the weekend time. And if I work during the weekend, I think my partner, he would tell me something. Yeah, so this would not work. And to be honest, in the end, this is my most valuable time together with him. This is more or less my me time. Yeah, and I'm running. This is what I try to do every second day at least. And I'm reading a bit, some books. If I find some more time, and that's it. Yeah, then time is over.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. I think we're now at the end of the coffee chat. I really enjoyed hearing all of your questions. There are just some comments about their schedule has expired, so they have to go now. So they're already taking your advice very seriously.
Good.
So thank you to you too, and thank you to all the attendees for joining, and especially for sending all these very interesting questions. We plan to send out a brief survey so we can further improve this coffee chat, and it would be great if you could reply with any suggestions about topics that you're interested in. And of course, thanks to IAHR and especially the task force for supporting this really great event. And happy Women in Science Day, and have a nice afternoon. Goodbye.
Thank you, Isabella, and goodbye to all of you. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Yeah, thank you for attending, and thank you for organizing, Isabella.